Three guys, many games on the road, heading to Gillette.
Road
Here
trip.
we are. We only have two of our guys though. The third guy is already up there. He's setting the table. He's got some big plans, Vin. I'm your host, Steve Sombrato, with my big brother, Vin Sombrato. We might have a pop-in guest to substitute for Sir Smalley.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But we're on the road. We hit some traffic. We're going to get up and catch some of the women's games. There's two games today, the semis. Probably won't get up for the first one, but we'll be up there for the Northwestern game, it looks like. So excited to catch a little of that. But um,
Big event ahead. So,
yeah,
just to recap, last week was a big week for Smalley and the box and Hofstra. We had two terrific days. Weather that was, off the charts. It was, tailgating was amazing. It was a spectacle, and it was well attended. And the first game, you had Cornell, the number one team, that taking on Richmond, who I guess in a slight upset, you can say that they beat North Carolina. But Richmond came to play that day.
yeah. I mean, I don't know how much of a upset you could say after seeing them play up close. They really, really put in an effort against the high-scoring Cornell team. They had a good defensive game plan. The goalie was outstanding. I don't think any team had more than a two-goal lead on the day that I can remember. It was a back.
Well, I think Richmond might have been up three at one
Yeah,
point.
maybe. Yeah,
They
yeah,
actually
yeah,
were up
yeah.
and pretty late, which was getting pretty scary for the Cornell faithful. But any very, very strong team, they made when Richmond went up that three, I think Cornell immediately answered. Like, I think it was within, 30 seconds that they cut it back to two. But, you know, Richmond has arrived, I think. What do you think, Vin?
I thought they were great. I mean, look, they played Cornell earlier in the year and they lost a one-goal game at home against Cornell, and everybody, was saying, well, Cornell, they had to take a bus and made all the excuses for why that was a one-goal game. But let me tell you, they were holding their breath in this game because Richmond, they really played nice team lacrosse. I credit Coach Chamati, did a tremendous job with the team. And, he's got a vast array of weapons. He had a few Canadians, and they really came to play. Like I said, I just think, the difference probably was I think Cornell was a little deeper than them, and I could see Richmond. We were sitting up in the suites, and we had the center one where we were right at the 50-yard line. It was a tremendous vantage point, and I'm scanning the whole field, and I could just see some tired legs in the fourth quarter where a couple of plays that Richmond just couldn't make getting to the ball, or they failed on a couple of clears that really hurt them when it was in crunch time. Cornell looked to have a little more juice in them. But the effort was there, the excitement, the crowd, the whole bit.
I,
Again,
I think they did. I thought Richmond did an unbelievable job on Kirst. I mean, I mean, if anything, I mean, he still made a few goals, and he obviously makes his plays. He's very tough to hold no matter what. But I think he got beat up a little bit in that game. It seemed like he took a lot of hits, and our man Ryan Goldstein stepped up when needed and had a tremendous game. Their attack really came through when they needed it. But I felt like there was a sign there that they did a great job on Kirst. I mean, I don't think Richmond could have done any more than they did to hold them. Hold on Cornell's offense.
no, he's a difficult guy to hold, obviously, from his whole career, what he's accomplished. But that particular day, they swarmed him. They had a good game plan. They doubled him early. They planned on getting the ball out of his stick, which they did, and he didn't. What they limited was, from what I saw the game before, when he still scored a bunch of goals. He scored on cuts. He got himself open off of picks, not even off dodges. I'm talking about. He was a recipient of passes. they cut that off. And also, when he did get the ball, the one he scored 2 goals. I think he
Yeah.
had one that was like he scored in a phone booth. It was in a really tight
Right.
quarters that he put one in. But yeah, I mean, look, it's like pick your poison. The other guys stepped up. Ryan Goldstein being one, like you said, gives them opportunity, and that's what having depth is all about. And being able to adjust your game plan. You can't just go to sleep because your best player starts to get shut down because of a game plan. So um, they adjusted, and like you said, even though it was a 3 goal lead for Richmond, they got right back in it. Richmond did a much better job. I was looking at the stats from the first game to that game the other day,
Right.
and the first game they got killed on the faceoffs. This game they held their own, so that kept them in it too. And like I said before, that goalie was tremendous. He had a great game, so it was exciting.
Well, I had the pleasure of playing with Coach Chamati when we played together on the Storm, New Jersey Storm, and he was a scrappy type guy, and that's what I could see in his guys.
Yeah.
I saw them make a number of plays. I remember the face-off guy after getting beat. Cornell guy had won the face-off, and he threw it to one of the short sticks that was on the wing, and the face-off guy just was relentless and made a play, checked it from him, and went out of bounds, and they got another possession. So I mean, that's the kind of the makeup of how Chamati was as a player. He was a tenacious guy. He was a two-way guy, and I think that the team models after him in a lot of ways. They had some weapons. I mean, the one guy was really getting to the net and making some tremendous shots. But the midfielder, number 7. I
Yeah,
don't
sorry,
remember his name
we
off
don't
the top of his
we don't
head.
have the
We don't have
roster, but
we
that
don't have
tells you
computer
that
stuff.
tells you these guys their names and don't roll off our tongues because they don't get the publicity that a lot of the other players get,
True.
and we don't see them as much, but they're every bit as good as any other players we've seen in the country. They were really talented.
And you look at that division. When you think about that division that Richmond won, and you might say, okay, whatever that division. Yeah, but it got High Point, who's coming
Right.
along with Crawley,
Right.
and then you got St. Joe's.
Right.
And they've been effective the last few years. That's actually turning into a very competitive division.
No, look, the gap is closing. There's no question. The gap is closed with these other teams, and because there are so many good players out there that if you coach them up, you get the right mix, you can play with anybody. And that's a statement because today playing with a shot clock and all.
Yep.
You can't even try to if you think you got a lesser team or you're an underdog.
Oh, look at this.
Oh, somebody's chiming in here.
Look
Wait
at
a minute.
this. Look
Oh,
at
there he
this.
is.
Look at this.
Got the glasses on and all. We're just doing a recap of Frank Tashman's on the line. There he is. And we
I
just
gotta tell you, before we get into lacrosse, I just went to Gigante's Pizzeria in Oceanside. John the Barber's son's got a great place there for over 20 years. Vinny, the best Brooklyn slice, the upside down slice, and the best regular slice I've had. Besides Spumoni Gardens.
Now we're
with
doing
the
pizza
upside down.
reviews. We got
I
pizza
got
reviews.
listen to me.
Good to know.
We may get him as a sponsor, but I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
tell you this: if you're in Oceanside, you got to go to Gigante's and try the pizza. It was phenomenal.
we're not missing Smalley with Tash on.
Exactly.
No,
You
no, I
picked up
listen.
where Smalls left
I'm
off.
watching my weight. It's a summertime. I only
Oh,
had 2 slices, 1 and 1.
We get on
One and one,
Smalley about his advertisements, and then here you come on, and the first thing you're talking about Spumoni Gardens and pizza.
Well,
Oh,
he's
and there he
got
goes.
big shoes to
No,
fill.
listen,
Yeah,
and I washed it down with a nice Diet Coke. Like that helps.
All right.
So we were finishing talking about that Cornell Richmond game, and
Right.
Cornell is happy to have survived. You know listen,
Yep.
and that's what happens in this tournament. This tournament is about surviving and advancing. That's what it's about, and they got the win, and they're playing the first game tomorrow. Do you think anything? I'm just curious. Just we'll go talk about the other three Final Four games, but Cornell plays again tomorrow first. Do you think
Right.
that's an advantage to be scheduled first? I believe.
They've said that that's been an advantage. Yes, they have said that playing
Oh,
first.
they
I
get
think
the
it's,
extra day, you
it's
mean? Is that why?
not even a day. They're only a few hours. It's
Right.
not a day. They play
Right.
on the same day. It's just a
Right.
few hours. And I commented on this before. I mean, obviously, it's changed. They made it a spectacle of Memorial Day weekend, Final Four, Saturday, Monday games, as when I was in school, we played the semis were played on one Saturday and the finals the following Saturday, Super Bowl style, have a little time in between.
You're right.
So, I always preferred the
Think you get a
weekend
better
game.
game that way, to be honest with you. But they do it
Yeah,
for their own.
the guys
Yeah,
arrested,
they
the
got to
game plan.
change. But you know what else, Vinny? The girls' game has gotten so big now, and the fans, like between the girls and the guys, if they figured out a scheduling thing in these stadiums, they'd get 40, 50,000 at these games.
Well, you got
You
the
know, if
this is the first time they're playing at the same location this weekend.
yeah,
The
no,
women
no,
are
I
playing the semis right now.
no, I get it. But I'm saying is that the women's game has gotten so much bigger now, and they do have their own fans and the families and everything like that. It would be an unbelievable weekend if they did it. Saturday, Sunday like that,
Yeah.
and then Monday
Well,
with the
it always seems to
championship.
be, it always seems to, we were talking about this too. It always seems to be a quantity of games, but it always seems like nobody stays for any other game other than
Right.
their own. So
Well,
you could
right,
say
but
it's
you'd make the
40,000, but there's
girls'
never more
game.
than,
You'd make the Right, you make the girls' game on at 11, 12 o'clock on Monday, and you make the men's game after that, because then you're going to get a lot of the men's fans watching the two great girl teams.
they're
I mean,
not. That's what I'm telling you. They're not. Because then what
well,
happens is the men's fans stay out in the parking lot, drinking beer and eating Ferrone steaks until it's time for the men's
yeah.
game. And then they
No,
go
I
in.
understand. I
You know?
get it. It would be great if they could figure out a way to do it all under one umbrella, because it would just, the numbers have definitely been a little lighter in the bigger stadiums the last couple of years. Some of it has to do with weather, but
Well, maybe,
it's
maybe for the finals, but you actually had down in Annapolis last weekend the largest crowd
17,000.
watching a quarterfinals.
But
So
were they
right,
all in
right.
there at once?
right.
That's
Well, that's
also
the
a
thing. Like
question.
Hofstra,
They said
you were
8,000.
there, so you saw at Hofstra. You had that first Cornell Richmond game, and then there was kind of a mass exodus, and then the fans rolled in for Syracuse and Princeton.
Right,
So
right.
nobody, it's getting tough to get people. People want to tailgate, they want to do other stuff. So it's kind of tough. Got to be a lax rat to want to sit and watch the two games.
So let's talk about
No,
let's
well,
talk about that. As the second game started, you mentioned, that was Syracuse came in with Princeton. Princeton, I thought, looked like they had a tremendous team. That was a heavyweight bout. That thing was
Yeah.
going
oh,
back
that
and
was old
forth.
school. Yeah, that was old school Syracuse. Scoring
High-powered
19 goals.
offense, fast breaks, unbelievable shots, unbelievable offense. It was, just when you thought Princeton might have it, Syracuse came back and jumped up on them. And then just when you thought they were going to pull away, the other guys start coming back. So, I mean, that was really an old school game.
Yeah, you're talking about combined 37 goals. That's a high score. I mean, I don't know if there was any games this year that were 19-18. That just
Not
Yeah.
1918. Maybe blowouts, maybe high scoring, but
for
definitely
one
not
team. But
1918. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but
Yeah.
they last year they played that kind of game too. Didn't they go to overtime? That was a crazy game with Syracuse
Yeah.
Cornell last year. I mean,
Yep.
That was Syracuse
Syracuse
Cornell.
Cornell.
But yeah, that was another great game that could have went either way. You
Yep.
know, uh, High powered offense, like Steven said. So can these teams it's funny. You look at Maryland; they hold teams down. You got these other teams that score a lot of goals. You know, what's going to win, offense or defense? You know, what's going to be the
I was
difference?
I was happy for Gary, that he was able to, bring them to the Final Four, first time in 12 years.
Yeah,
We went by the tailgate after the win for Syracuse. They were all excited, but I did feel for Princeton because, to be honest, I felt like they had a really strong team. They easily could have won that game, and who knows where they could have went. I mean, they
yeah,
really
definitely a
they
letdown for them being ranked too, and falling for
Right.
that game, no doubt. They should
Yeah.
have made the Final Four, but then again, Syracuse has been built for this for the last 3 years. That freshman class, you know, if they didn't make it to the Final Four this year, would you guys consider that a letdown? Because I would
Yeah,
think that
I would have seen it as a disappointment for them. Yeah.
right.
Frank, I
What do you
said to
think,
Vinny a
Vinny?
few weeks ago, when I said to Vinny a few weeks ago, when we were trying to figure, who's going where in terms of what teams are going to make the quarterfinals or how good
Right,
the games will be. And
right.
when we got to thinking about the quarterfinals, he said, wow, look at these games. Any one of these teams could really get to the Final
Correct.
Four. I mean, these are
Yeah,
teams that, so all really, really strong teams. It's heartbreaking for the losing teams because you know that they're that close, and it's just the way the ball bounces. Somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. And
right.
and that's what pretty much happened to Princeton. I think they let an opportunity. If I was going to say, not to take a shot at them, their defense and goalie overall during the season of games I've watched seemed to be a little bit better than they played. Maybe credit Syracuse for how good they were playing offense and their shooting, but I thought maybe that was a little down. They didn't seem to hold them as well as I thought maybe they would hold them, Princeton, and that probably cost them in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, the
listen,
next day
anyone could have won that game.
they were more defensive games the next day. That's for sure.
Well,
Yes,
the
yes,
first game of the next day was probably what maybe some people thought was a big upset, where Notre Dame was coming off their win against Ohio State, who looked strong all year. They take on Penn State, and at some point in that game, they looked like they were in full control, and the Nittany Lions came roaring back,
Yeah.
all at once, and snipped them at the wire.
Well, you never would have believed that a team that Notre Dame team up by 6 goals could get outscored 8-0. But there were signs this year at times when they went cold offensively. They did have long stretches in some games where they didn't score, but to be held scoreless for from their last goal to the end of the game, that was a shocker. It's just credit Penn
yeah,
State. Their defense was great. The goalie was getting hot, and offensively, they obviously they did it, but I don't want to say it was a one man gang, but that trainer kid, he went nuts. He scored 6 goals.
yeah,
It's great. He was running through people. You don't normally see a guy run through Notre Dame without either getting hit or getting double teamed. But he somehow
yeah,
maneuvered through. They made that one flying
And
goal
he
from the
made like
back,
a
a backhander.
he made a
He had a
Frankie
Frankie T.
T-ish
He
goal
had a
there.
Frankie T type goal.
That's kind of like your goals,
Oh,
Frankie. You
brought it
know,
back from the past.
he
They did a
did.
bunch of
The
people
only
with
thing he
that.
didn't
With
do
that.
is he didn't give the stick dunk
No, he
afterwards.
didn't.
Oh,
The
nobody
You
signal.
know,
does that. That's
Yeah,
old school.
right,
you put the cherry on top.
right.
Oh, forget it.
But that
Forget.
was
I'm
quite a
mad.
move. I mean, that was. I mean, he went from the back of the goal around the top side of the goal. Pretty impressive.
One
He did
handed.
that.
It was
Yeah,
like one handed, and I don't think there was much time on the shot clock. I think it was like a 3-2-1
Yeah, that was
kind
a
of
dagger.
situation.
That was a
yeah.
dagger goal.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah,
That was
so
great.
that ended the quest for a three-peat. That was it for Notre Dame. They had a great season, but it's how
Now
it
is
goes.
I,
Kavanaugh gone? Is the youngest Kavanaugh gone now?
Yeah, he's finished.
that's the end
So
of the. That's the end
how
of
do
the
you think
Kavanaugh
they'll
era.
fare now after whatever it is 7-10 years of Kavanaugh brothers? How do you think they'll fare moving forward now
They'll be all
after
right.
the.
They'll reload. I think after you've won championships, I
Yeah,
mean,
but I tell
it's
you,
a
never seen three
destination
people
spot
with
for a
more of
lot
an
of the top
impact
players right now.
than those three brothers. Right? Those three
Yeah. Oh
brothers had
no,
some impact on that
they
program.
help.
Well,
That's what.
Notre Dame got far, in years without them, but they didn't bring home the trophies like what these guys did.
Right.
These last 2 years.
Right.
This year to me in this game with Penn State, to be honest, and I'd seen it during the year too. There was some uncharacteristic things like you would see them go off sides all the time. They went off sides like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Like, these are things that Notre Dame teams during those runs where they were winning those titles didn't seem to be happening as much. Correctable things.
Yeah.
If they get talent,
Yeah.
these are correctable things.
Lapses in the judgment.
Right.
It just.
Yeah.
But
Listen, not a
listen,
hard place to recruit, that's for sure, especially now.
no,
What a
they'll be
great school,
fine.
great
They'll be
sports. But,
fine.
I mean, their academics obviously are very high standard, but, so are the Ivy. So they'll get the players, they'll get the kids.
So Penn State's back into the Final Four, and then the next game with Maryland
Maryland and
and
Georgetown.
Georgetown. Georgetown is a team that's been on fire. I think they said the last 4 games or 5 games of the season, they averaged 16, 17 goals per game. They were one of the highest scoring teams, if not the highest scoring team in the country the last 4 or 5 games. And for Maryland, again, to hold them under 10, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like, to be honest, it's like Tillman, he hits you with the anesthesia and he puts you to sleep.
yeah.
And then they just can't recover. That defense, that defense and goalie. And don't you have to credit the offense too. Sometimes your offense is your best defense.
The other team don't have the ball.
They
They
don't have
can't
the
score.
ball. They
They're
they have
very, yeah,
quality
they're
of
very
possessions,
disciplined. They're very, I mean,
methodical.
he's the most tactical, one of the most tactician. The guy's unbelievable. The system that he runs, he just, he
Yeah,
wins. Or if he doesn't win everything, he's always right there. You
yeah.
know what a job he's done with that program.
I give you
Unbelievable.
a great story, Frankie.
Yep.
So I was down in Long Beach watching that game, and then I had to go because my son had practice, and it was up in Oceanside. Didn't get to go to Gigante's Pizza. Well, is it Gigante's?
You go to
What?
Oceanside and you don't get the Brooklyn slice or the regular slice from Gigante's. I'm telling you, you don't even know what you're missing.
Okay,
You don't even know what you're
so
missing.
so now we have his practice. He finishes his practice. We're shooting around, and we're throwing it. We're taking some shots, doing a little give and goes, and my phone rings. Who is it? It's Tillman. He says, "You guys still here?"
You,
I guess he thought we were there.
you're at the
I
game.
said, "Oh," I said, "We're not there." So I congratulated him. He got right to work. He's like, "I'm going to get a pizza and watch Syracuse."
Yeah,
So he leaves, like John leaves no stone unturned. So
Wow.
that's the way he is. He's going to
Yep.
have a game plan. He's going to have some new wrinkles for them, and
Yep.
if Syracuse is going to beat them, they're going to have their A game. Because they won't beat themselves. Maryland does not beat themselves. You have to go out. You have to go out and beat them. That's how he coaches, and he does a tremendous job of it. And all of his kids buy into it, and they come to play.
Yeah.
What did you think of that game?
I just thought I guess the best word to describe Maryland is efficient.
Yeah,
They're just very efficient.
Yeah.
I love how they share the ball. They don't waste shots. They normally, very, very rarely will you see a Maryland player take a bad angle shot.
Right.
They'll
You're
make
right about that.
they'll make
Yep.
the extra pass. I see times guys going down the alley where most teams, if guys going down the alley, will take that shot and he's really shooting at a small spot, but he figures he could get it back with a backup. Maryland instead, even though they're right near on the doorstep, they'll still throw it to X and redirect it for a better shot. And they're
Right.
really good at doing that. Um, their face-off guy is tough as usual. Their wing play is great. I'm excited about these 2 games. These are just great matchups.
Yeah.
Really, two good
well,
matchups.
Great weekend. Great weekend.
Well,
I got to tell you,
let's talk about game one, Frankie. You got Cornell, coming off their Richmond win, and they got to take on a team that beat them during the season at their place, at their house.
Yeah.
So what do you see as being the keys of that game between Penn State and Cornell?
well, I mean, listen, the revenge factor is always there. You'd rather lose during the season than lose at the end of the season if you're playing somebody twice, right? But I just think I don't think Cornell had their best. I mean, the face-off guy, was it Cascadden?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, Cascade. The guy was
Yes.
unbelievable. What he lose? One or two face-offs? I mean, the sole fact that Richmond was even in that game with the amount of face-offs they won was just just the sole fact that was unbelievable. I think Goldstein's the best. In my personal opinion, I think he's the best player in the country right now. That's me. I mean, maybe I'm
Mhm.
biased because I know the father. His father's a great guy, Timmy. But this kid's unbelievable. I mean, everything goes through him, and he's only a sophomore. You know,
Right.
I mean, I'm picking Cornell. I mean, I'm a Eamon McEnany, obviously Richie Moran fan since I was a kid. Cornell's one of my favorite teams of all time. I'm going to pick them.
What do you think, Vin?
Yeah. I mean, the first game that they played, Cornell really had that game won. Unfortunately, they got a non-releasable penalty that allowed Penn State to come back. But regardless of the fact that there was this unreleasable penalty, head-to-head contact, whatever it was, they still had to make the plays. Penn State,
Yeah.
and they did.
Yeah.
They really made the play. I mean, there's a team. They're maybe right now of the Final Four. They're the Rodney Dangerfield of the Final
Yeah.
Four. Because maybe they don't get enough credit, but
Right, right.
that showed me a lot of heart when they won that game up at Cornell, and it showed me even more heart the way they came back from a 6-goal deficit against Notre Dame to do
Yeah,
that. This team, you better put a stake in their heart if you're going to beat them. They're not going to
yeah.
give up till there's all the zeros on the clock.
Who
So
who
I
you
think
who
they're
you
playing
picking?
with a little chip. I don't know. I mean, if I'm just straight out who I think would win the game, I say Cornell, but I wouldn't be totally surprised if Penn State won. But I would say that I was looking at, and congratulations to all the guys who made the USILA All American stuff came out, and Cornell has 8 All Americans on the team, and a few first teamers, second teamer, third teamer. They only have 3 All Americans on the Penn State roster, and their highest. They got 2 guys at third team and 1 guy at honorable mention. So they're doing more with what some people would consider less, but I'm sure those players on their team don't think they're less than anybody, and that's why they're functioning at a high level because they got a lot
Yeah.
of belief in themselves and they
Oh yeah.
function well as a unit, which is more important. The awards and all of that are nice, but I think
Right.
their goal is to win a national championship, and they'll be much happier to get that, because then everybody on the team shares in that. So
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a great game. And in the other game,
Well, wait a minute.
oh, you didn't say
First of all,
yours?
you didn't make your pick. You didn't.
I
I'm
said
talking,
Cornell.
but you didn't.
I
Okay,
did. I said
minus a
You
Cornell. I
got
goal
to
said.
there.
I
commit,
said.
Vin. You got to commit.
Well, you didn't say with the
All right,
spread.
it's
You said
one and a
who's going to
half. We
win.
know. We said before.
So Cornell's a goal and a half favorite.
Right.
I'll still take Cornell.
You're gonna take
Yeah.
Cornell.
I would
Okay.
go. I would go with Cornell if they were laying 3. I think Cornell's going to win.
Wow. Okay. He thinks it's a lopsided game. I think the game. I saw slight chinks in Cornell's armor. I thought a little bit with their defense in the last game scared me a little bit. We'll have to see how that plays out. But I do think the face-off kid. I don't know that Penn State will be able to win face-offs, consistently against Cascadden, and I think that's going to be a big difference because I think if they play a lot of defense, Penn State, I think they could be in trouble. And their goalie has been okay, Penn State, but I don't know if he's faced Cornell when they start rolling, they seem to put bunches together. They come with 4 or 5 goal runs. Now Penn State does it too, so But I don't know that Penn State will be able to do that because of Cascadden. I think he's gonna be the key to a Cornell win. I'm gonna pick Cornell minus the goal and a half for me on that game. We'll have to hear from Sir Smalley and see what he thinks. I know he's gonna have his heartstrings pulled because he loves his
Heartstrings or his
his
heartstrings?
heartstrings. He loves Penn State and he loves Cornell.
No, we got
So
friends. We have friends on all four Final Four teams. We
right,
got friends whose kids are on
Right.
all Final Four teams. You
Go
know, it's we're
Cowboys.
just we want to just see everybody play well. We want to see
Yep.
it, but when we want to enjoy, we couldn't have gotten two better games to watch at Hofstra the other day, and
Yep.
we're hoping that these two games and the finals is just the same. So, you want to go to
yeah.
the
Let's
other game?
go to the other game.
So the other game, what's interesting about these two games, I started to say was, you're talking about we just picked Cornell, who Penn State beat, and I'm not sure, the Maryland Syracuse game. Maryland beat Syracuse during the year, so it's not like these teams haven't seen each other. They both played against each other. These both games. These are rematches,
Yep.
and Syracuse had been rolling until they rolled into. I think it was played at Maryland on a cold, kind of
Yes,
rainy
I
day,
was there. I was
and
there.
yeah, and Maryland. I don't know if you call it an upset, but they beat them that day.
Well, at the time, you would consider it an
It was,
upset. They
yeah, I
were
guess it
talking like
was.
it was like an upset, to be honest, at
Yeah,
that time.
yeah,
Now, it didn't turn out that way as you looked as the season progressed. But
right.
at that moment, that day, that was clearly like raised eyebrows of like, wow, Maryland really handled Syracuse pretty well.
Yeah,
And they did so because I think they neutralized the Syracuse faceoff man
right.
with their wing play because their poles were unbelievable that day for Maryland. And the goalie for Maryland, McInerney, played amazing. He was really, really good. So that being said, they seemed to handle them, but that game, Syracuse hit pipes and that could have, been a tighter game as well. It's in the cold. They had played 5 or 6 games a row in the dome. It's different when
Well,
you
we might be a little chilly and rain tomorrow. We don't know. Hopefully not, but I don't know that the conditions are going to be as good as they were at Hofstra the other day or
right.
at
That's
Annapolis the
true.
other day.
That's
So you're
true.
going to
Smalls
have to
will have
fight
the
through
heat
that.
cranking in the luxury
The
box.
box
That's
is
for
not going to
sure.
be a worry. We're going to be warm,
Well,
and there's going to be
well,
food and
Yeah.
personally, we'll be inside. So but
Smalls will pay the freight for the extra heat.
yeah, no, we'll get the heater on in there. But it's going to be interesting. There's like these subplots I was saying about how many guys made All American from each team. Then I was saying, let's say Cornell
Did
wins
they
and
come
it's a
out,
series.
Vinny? I didn't see that. Did the All Americans come out?
The USILA came out, yes, the USILA. So
Who made first?
I was saying before you came on, uh, um, you know, Penn State has the fewest of the Final Four teams. They have the fewest All Americans. They only have 3, compared to the other teams have 8, 8, and 7 on their roster.
Right.
So Kirst was the player of the year, and
Wow.
attackman of the year went to an attackman from Army,
Army.
Iker, who was very good. He's an excellent player. He was attackman of the year. Midi of the year they gave to a short stick D guy from Duke, McGuire, who's
Wow.
excellent. So he got recognized, even though he scores a couple goals here and there in transition, but he had a lot of value to their team. And the defenseman of the year, well, who was the guy? I'm trying to remember now. Oh, it was co-D guys.
Yeah, 2D guys.
It was the
Ohio State guy, Van
Ohio
Buren,
Van Buren was
and
excellent,
Light,
and Light from Notre
Notre
Dame.
Dame.
They got the Schmeisser Award for best D guy. They
Who got
co-players,
goalie?
and the goalie was
Big
Big
Tasty.
Tasty from Ohio State.
Nice. Who made
So
first
that
team,
was
man?
so they actually picked. I'm doing this from memory, but they picked five attackmen. They
Is
had
that normal?
which is on no,
No.
not really. I mean, I've never
I
seen it
think what
at
they did
5.
was they were doing 4, but then maybe what happened was maybe it was so close for that fourth guy, they just said 5, and then they only took 3 second-team attackmen.
Right.
So 8, but normally you would say maybe 4, 4, and 4. They did 5, 3,
So
and
who
4.
were the 5?
The 5 were Cursed, Ica from Army,
Sam King.
Sam King from Harvard, Kavanaugh from Notre Dame, and who's the 5th one that we're missing, Steven?
Cursed.
Did we say Cursed?
No, we
I
said
thought we
Kurtz,
had
the
said
kid from Syracuse.
no. By Syracuse. No, the midfielder from Syracuse made first team. Um, the guy that does everything, that number 15.
Yeah, English.
English was a first teamer. McAdory was a first teamer,
Yep.
and who was the other midi? Well,
The Keller.
Kelleher. Oh, Kelleher. Huey Kelleher.
Yeah,
Thomas's
Huey needs to have a
protege.
big game tomorrow.
Thomas Engelke's
Yep.
protege. Yeah.
Protege. Huey needs to come up big tomorrow. They need him.
Yeah. And then the defense was 2 of the guys we just told you. What was the other first team defender?
AJ Pilot made it.
Oh, AJ. AJ.
Former
AJ
Alley.
from Massapequa.
Former Alley Pond All-Star.
And the guys that I know that, used to come down work out. Mike Leo made second team. Third team. Third team.
Mike Leo made third team.
Third team. Spallina made second team.
Goldstein made second team.
Goldstein made second team.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of guys.
Leo had a great year. Spallina had a very good year. Obviously, Goldstein, the kids, the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah. So listen, I don't think he's looking forward to next year. I think he's worried about these next 2 games.
Oh, no, 100%. Listen, he wants to win.
Listen.
Kid plays hard everywhere around the field, riding everything. Plays hard all game.
He does.
We were talking about it, as we were just driving, Steve and I, before we came on. We were saying, you think of the great players that never were able to win a national championship. Coming out of high school, you would have thought that Brendan O'Neill and McAdory, both being down at Duke, they would for sure at least get one under their belt.
Yep.
There's Kirst, his all-time leading goal scorer. He's got his shot still, but it's not so easy, even for the greatest players who play, to get grabbed. I mean, Pennell, Rob Pennell, as great as Rob was in college, he got to the finals as a freshman. They lost a crazy game to Syracuse in overtime. He never got back. Got back to the finals.
Max Seabold, one of the greatest midfielders ever.
Yeah, these guys never won one, so it's not easy to win this thing. It's interesting.
Not one bit.
Penn State a few years ago with the controversial goal in the semifinal game.
Crease
was
ball.
The guy in the crease, not in the crease. They played a great game that day, and they lost, and that's why they put the video in now and the whole bit. So they, look, they got a lot of things to play for, Penn State. They're going to be sky high. And I don't say this, they're playing. A couple of those guys who are playing tomorrow probably played in that game, that Duke game, right?
Yeah.
Or on the team at the time. So they remember that this is their opportunity. They're not going to take it lightly,
No.
So,
Stephen, who are you picking?
So we're talking about the Maryland game, right? So that's another one that's a goal and a half.
Vinny, who did you go with, Vin?
I didn't say Maryland. Maryland. That's a tough one.
I'm going to pick Maryland, and I just feel like that they're going to have a game plan. I just think he's going to have a game plan to slow them down, and I think they get the win because I think the goalie is a little bit stronger. Is it and the fans, they get to pick. We're going to have them up in the stories. I have a little confidence meter. I can tell you this with my Maryland pick. I don't know how confident I am because if Syracuse wins a lot of faceoffs and Maryland has to play a lot of D, that could get dicey. But I'm going to pick Maryland because I think they have the stronger D, and I think they can get over the top. I think they'll be able to hold them down.
Well, as our picks go, the fans can't be caught. I don't think the fans outlasted us
Fans are up by 4 games
4
on me and
games.
Vin, and me and Vin are up 4 games on Smalley.
Yeah, and we're tied. Steven
That
and I
doesn't
are tied.
surprise me.
So, I don't know. I'd have to go with Maryland also, and then you and I, it's going to come down to that final game.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to pick opposite whatever you pick that game,
Oh,
just to make it interesting. Just to make
So
it
let me give
interesting.
you my take because I got to pop off in a few minutes. So I'm gonna. I love Tillman. I think he's one of the best coaches. I think the same thing. They're disciplined, but I'm gonna go with Cuse because I think they're on a roll, and I think they got a taste of it. And playing in front of big crowds, they're used to that. That's not even going to be a factor. I think these guys are ready and they're peaking right now. If McCool could shut the door, I think that Syracuse Cornell is going to be in the finals.
An upstate final.
I believe it's going to happen. And like I said, I hope Tillman doesn't get mad at me for this when I see him in Lake Placid. But I'm just going to say.
oh, you're making Lake Placid? Is that official?
I'm making
Is
Lake
that an
Placid.
announcement?
I'm
He's
going to put the
back.
helmet
He's
on.
playing. He's back.
I'm going to lose 6 pounds. I'm going to clip my toenails and I'll be light as a feather.
Okay.
That's it. But
That's great.
I'm going to, like I said, I love Tillman. He's a gentleman. And he's a great coach, and they have a great team. But I just think that Syracuse might be on a roll that they might not be able to handle this year.
Well, now we're at our shout outs. I'll start us off.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
My shout out has to go out. I might be stealing both of your thunders on this one. My shout out goes out to both Gordon Purdy and Pat McCabe.
Oh yeah.
Teammates, friends, and they're both playing in the finals. Gordon with the men playing Tampa, and Pat won last night. Will also play Tampa. I mean, how often does that happen? Both, and we got a former Panther on right now in Tash. You got Adelphi playing Tampa in both men's and women's.
Right.
How do you figure that?
I love it. I think it's great for the game. I shout out to both of them. Great coaches. Constantly have their teams in the mix. I think it's going to be a Panther day on both ends. I think they're going to do it. And
Are they going to have they should have the mayor of Garden City should be having a bet with whoever's the mayor of Tampa.
Yeah, I don't even know. Who knows if they even know the games are going on? These guys. Everybody's got their own stuff going on. Who knows? I mean, I'll bet.
But that was my
Anybody
shout
wanna
out. What'd
bet
you
me?
try to co-op? Did he
I'll
co-op
bet
my shout out?
anybody. I'll send out 4 pies from Gigantes, 2 regular, 2 Brooklyn. Anybody wants to take me up on it? I got a Delphi all the way.
Oh, okay.
What's his shout out?
What's your shout out? You got a shout out?
I mean, my shout, who's my shout out? But to obviously Patty and Gordon. I mean, love those guys. Great coaches. Joe Cat, Volpe, all those guys. Draper at Adelphi that work hard. Listen, not easy. Not easy to get there once. Not easy to get there twice to win it. So they've done a phenomenal job keeping those guys focused. It's very hard. Pat had a couple of crushing losses in the last couple of years. It's great for him to get back and win it.
Yep.
So my shout outs to the Adelphi boys, all of them, and girls.
Okay.
And girls.
My shout out goes to all the parents of these kids who are playing in the Final Four, men's and women's, who are biting their fingernails down to the bone with anticipation and suspense that goes into it, because these parents were the ones who put so much time for these kids to be at this level.
Yeah.
And so much time traveling and bringing them places and travel teams, and the time they put in as much time as the kids these days. And I think I give a shout out to those parents. Whatever's going to happen this weekend, just sit back and enjoy that your kid is just competing, and be happy that they're happy and healthy, getting their education and being part of something special.
Now, the one other thing we do have to say to pick a winner on, because this is, who do you think is going to win? We're hearing a lot of different things. Who's winning the tailgate this year?
Oh boy.
I don't know. I think Cornell's got a big following, but I mean, I'm a Cornell fan, but I don't know. Syracuse travels well. They travel well too. I'm
Well,
going
we're hearing a
Syracuse. I'm
lot
gonna
of
stay
things.
in.
We're
I'm gonna
hearing
stay in New York. I got to pick one of the two, so I'm not gonna give you who's gonna win the final if they're in it, but I'm gonna go with Syracuse.
we're hearing a lot of stuff coming. There's a lot of stuff hearing things
Yeah,
out of the Penn State from Penn State.
yeah.
All
Penn
right,
State is they're all in. The athletic department got fully behind this effort, and they're
all
I
right,
I
that's
think that
good.
I just pray that the weather cooperates because I think that parking lot scene tomorrow between those four teams, Maryland
Yeah.
comes heavy too.
Maryland comes heavy.
Maryland
No, they
comes,
all
they're
come
loaded.
heavy. I mean, everybody's got their own little niche. Penn State will have a couple of beavers on the spit, turning them over,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they're going all out. They're going all out.
Yeah.
Our guy Ferrone, he's got 60 pounds of filet mignon. He's
Really?
he's
I
ready
Yeah,
to
think
but then
more
go.
than
listen, you
that.
got Leo. Leo could bring in bushels of clams, shrimp,
Oh, he's
lobsters.
got he's coming
Who
with
knows what
yeah,
Leo's doing? Leo's capable of
yeah.
anything.
And then we obviously saw our men from Cornell with their tomahawk steaks
Yeah,
from Mitchell Field there.
you know that the Liz Rock can do it up there. That group of
Yeah.
Cornell guys,
Yep.
they're not playing around. If they did it in the cold weather
Right.
over at Mitchell Field,
This
can you
is it.
imagine
This
what
is
it's going to be
showtime.
tomorrow?
This is
Oh
showtime.
yeah. This is going to be a good one. Definitely, no doubt. Guys, I got to
Well,
jump off. Thank you for having
well,
me.
so we're gonna sign off. We'll make sure you follow. Make sure you vote in the stories for who your picks are, since you guys are the champs. The fans are the champs.
Yeah,
And I don't have the I don't have the music to sign us
he
off, but
doesn't
maybe
have
I
the
get
music.
some Pearl Jam, maybe right here.
All right. Don't
There we
forget, get
go.
a
There
couple
you go.
slices of
And then we're gonna
Gigantes.
sign us off.